Yo, 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 me Naganki! I've been waiting 5 weeks to do that. I don't think it was worth it. But anyway, hello everybody! Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to our weekly Hypnosis Mic Division Rap Battle Rhyme Anima discussion video. Today we're talking all about episode 5, Seeing is Believing. But before we get into it, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, let all of AniTube know that you're here. So, it's finally time to dig into a Fling Posse episode. It took us a while, but here we are. For a refresher for those who might not be aware already, my introduction to Hypnosis Mic was actually thanks to seeing Ramda all over the place, though mostly in fan art and cosplay on Twitter. I eventually got curious enough to see what all the hype was about and googled Ramda and stumbled across the song Drops. From there, yeah, actually that was pretty much it for a while. I loved Drops to pieces, but I was pretty much solely a Fling Posse guy, and even then, I was mostly just a Ramda guy. Once I heard rumblings about an anime though, I figured I might as well wait to hear what the other groups sounded like, so, when the show eventually dropped. Pun intended. For the record, Fling Posse is still my favorite of the groups, followed by Mountain Row, followed by Buster Bros and Mad Trigger Crew, though each group has something unique about them that I really dig. Fling Posse just vibes with me the most. Even if I didn't walk into the show with that bias, I'm pretty sure Ramda, Dice, and Gentaro would have eventually won me over before long. To really dig into this episode though, we should probably talk a bit about what it is that Fling Posse actually gets up to this week. And what wonderful timing, it's a Halloween episode. Well, actually, by the time you guys see this, it'll be a day late. For me, it's the day before Halloween. Making videos does get a bit wibbly-wobbly with the timey-wimey, I know. The trio basically start by lounging around in Ramda's shop, which has a neon Drops sign out front, which I loved, and are talking about how Dice basically gambled his life away in last week's Mad Trigger Crew episode. As they discuss how Dice is clearly developing a gambling problem and should probably seek treatment, except they don't actually do that because that'd be a little bit too real, Ramda hears on the TV that there have been some ghost sightings around Shibuya. This leads to an argument between a freaking out Ramda and an excited Dice, both questioning the existence of ghosts, and then Gentaro suggests they actually find out for themselves and make a bet on the whole thing. I adore this setup for two reasons. Firstly, because of how well it fits Fling Posse as a group, and secondly, because of how well it suits the depiction of Shibuya. Each adventure that the different groups have gone on feel very fitting to their individual strengths and general vibe. Buster Bros using their tech and brotherly bond to take out a bank robber, Mountain Row solving an attempted murder mystery, Mad Trigger Crew taking down a rival gang, and here we have Fling Posse being, well, Ghostbusters. I have to question if I'd really buy seeing Fling Posse getting roped into a story about drugs or murder. They just seem too goofy and fun to end up in a situation quite that serious, except for Ramda, but let's just save that for a little bit later down the video. Funny enough though, my experience with Fling Posse and only Fling Posse actually altered my view of what Hypnosis Mic was gonna be. I assumed it was gonna be pretty much a much lighter story, and just in terms of the world and tone, only to be shocked by the sudden appearance of F-bombs and drugs. It was legitimately pretty shocking. Part of me also wonders if maybe they should have followed the Buster Bros episode with an episode like this, just to sort of ease folks into the heavier topics that the show is eventually going to end up tackling. But ultimately, I'm actually pretty happy with the way that A1 ended up handling the series so far. As for the episode itself, it actually leads to a lot of really fun moments for characters like Gentaro and Ramda, although I do feel like Dice didn't get quite as much shine as the others. He's mostly just along for the ride this week, which is fine. He got a big moment with Rio and Mad Trigger Crew last week. Ramda spends most of the episode screaming and panicking over ghosts, while in the same breath totally refusing to believe they exist, which is how I find most people act when they say ghosts aren't real, myself included. Ramda and I can be as rational as we like, knowing full well that ghosts and monsters aren't real, but the instant something even slightly spooky happens, yeah, folks like us are the first ones to scream and run away. Then, on the opposite end of the scared spectrum is Gentaro, who spends the episode mostly on the fence during the whole ghost debate, but uses the opportunity to make the others as terrified as he possibly can. Gentaro weaves this whole spooky cabbie story during their drive to Club Mahojin, which, if I'm totally honest, had me super intrigued. I actually kind of wanted to know how it all ended, but Ramda and Dice just had to run out of the running out of the cab screaming. Although admittedly, I would have totally done the same thing. That was way too spooky for your boy, but still, I would have liked to have heard how that story ended. I also have to commend the different uses of the hypnosis mics we've seen throughout the show so far, but here we have what might be the best uses of the mics that we've seen so far. We know that the mics have the power to alter one's mind and potentially cause some serious damage. Matrix rules where it's the mind makes it real, though not quite to the same extent. I probably should have seen the twist of the ghosts being created by the hypmics coming, but for whatever reason, it just didn't cross my mind. So when Fling Posse puts the pieces together with some help from Buster Bros, which was a nice surprise, I was feeling somewhere between really excited, because that's a really cool idea, and a bit dumb for not having figured it out beforehand. Of course, some former rappers would use their mics to create the presence of freaky ghosts because they want to drive the other music clubs out of town. It's actually a pretty diabolical plan, and they would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling kids. This episode does end with a picture of a ghost behind Ramda though. But I'm actually guessing that Gentaro just photoshopped it or something like that for one last scare for Ramda, the poor dude. With that said though, let's talk a little bit about the individual members of Fling Posse, and of course, dig into their designs a little bit while we're at it. Let's start with Gentaro, because yes, I am going to be saving the king for last. Gentaro is shown to be wearing significantly more old-fashioned clothes than the other members of the team, or anyone else in the show for that matter. Most notably, the cape and the purple underside to it. That really stood out to me. And I feel as though the chosen colors actually do tell us a little bit of what kind of vibe we can expect from a character like Gentaro. I know, JoJo's screaming about color symbolism again, must be a day that ends with Y, but just hear me out here. The black cape could represent an elegance to the character of Gentaro, which we do see quite a bit throughout the episode in the way that he holds himself. While on the opposite side, the purple cape could be there to show the character's sense of nobility, since purple is often associated with things like royalty. Gentaro is shown to often conduct himself in a manner that actually depicts himself having more grace than others, speaking as though he just stepped off of a Shakespeare production. This pairs really nicely with the storyteller side to him, making the character seem significantly wiser than his fellow members of Fling Posse or even some of the other members of other groups, often remaining elegant in the face of chaos. Even when he gets scared in the episode, he still manages to come across as cool and collected. So yeah, the colors actually make sense. But enough about Gentaro. Let's actually go ahead and move on to Dice now, who, while I do feel did not quite get the same amount of funny or shining moments as the other characters did outside of the bet with Ramda, he still manages to impart a lot about himself both in his design and general personality on screen. Dice looks far more modern than Gentaro does, rocking a sort of basic black tee. He's got the long blue hair with golden Dice accessories in there, because of course he would have that, and his trademark green jacket. I love Dice's jacket. I actually kind of wish I had one, especially nowadays. It's getting cold in Canada, but then again, when isn't it cold up here? I mean, actually, just fair warning, summers in Canada are actually surprisingly hot. Don't let the Canada tropes fool you. Anyway, what does this green jacket tell us about Dice? Very simple, actually. It's another nod to Dice's love for gambling and games of chance, because green makes you feel lucky. The color green is restorative in nature in a lot of ways, and can make us think of many things, but one thing that seems to leap to mind for most people is a four-leaf clover, a general sign of good luck. It makes sense not only why the character designer would want to put Dice in that particular jacket, but also in universe it makes sense why Dice would actually own the jacket. It's likely he bought it with that in mind. That's the best kind of character design as far as I'm concerned, where you can see why the character would buy it, or why the character would own that. I love that kind of thing. And finally, let's talk about the golden king of Hypnosis Mic as far as I'm concerned. Let's talk about Ramda. Ramda is the very definition of loud character design, though this is definitely not meant to be a criticism in this case. The bright colors perfectly match Ramda's personality, or at least the general vibe that he gives off. The biggest point of interest in his design, for me at least, would likely be the pink hair, the blue eyes, and the long teal sweater. Teal as a color is a bit of a tough one to crack, honestly. Mixing the restorative nature of green with the relaxed vibe of blue, creating this sort of harmonious color, which might actually be a decent identifier for Ramda. He does generally come across as a free spirit, bringing joy and chill vibes where he goes, at least when he isn't getting the hell scared out of him by Gentaro. The pink in the design could be to show that whole love and compassion thing, since he has love and compassion for quote-unquote the ladies, while at the same time showing off that the character is a bit immature at times, pink often being seen as the youngest of the colors. All in all, Ramda's design is easily, far and away, one of the best in the whole friggin' series. It grabs a lot of attention in the same way that the character does in the narrative of the series. Hell, it's the reason that I'm talking about the show right now when you think about it. However, there is something about Ramda's character that really intrigues me. We noticed it very slightly in the first episode, we see it at the very beginning of this episode, and I've heard some rumblings about this from hypmic fans themselves. Basically, it seems like there might be a slight dark side to Ramda that he's trying to hide from the world. During the opening scene, we see/hear Ramda on the phone with who I have to assume is the Party of Words, who are speaking down to him, stating that they have no obligation to tell him anything. While Ramda plays this off, we do see him visibly annoyed after he hangs up the phone, with an aggression that feels very uncharacteristic of the character that we know him to be. That whole opening scene had me super intrigued. I wanted to know what the call was about. What was Ramda so annoyed by? And is he always like this? Like, which version of Ramda is the real one? Is he always angry and aggressive, or is the fun bubbly side the true side? Lots of questions here that maybe one day we'll get answers to, but I have a feeling it won't be for a while yet, so we're just gonna have to wait and see. So with that said, everybody, that is gonna wrap up today's video here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, I attempted to script this video. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if I like it. It takes a really long time, and a part of me kind of just wanted to go off on tangents, and I still feel like I'm missing things. I did this for the Higurashi video as well. Let me know your thoughts. Do you like the scripted style or just the off-the-cuff style? Let me know in the comments. But hey, speaking of the comments, now's a great time to do all the stuff that you do down there. So boop that up, snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, I have to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names, and hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are now 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that Patreon link in the description, and the second is by hitting that join button right beside the sub button to get a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course your name scrolling past this screen here. So if that sounds cool to you, go ahead and hit that join button or check out the Patreon link. Either way, it is super appreciated. So once again, a big thank you to the T Squadron, but on that note, that is it for me. So until next time, you stay classy, AniTube, and wash your dang hands.